Good evening, everybody. Today is Tuesday, March 5th, 2025. This is First Alert Plus, March 4th, 2025. Meteorologist Nicholas Snyder here. We're giving you the latest updates, of course, on some pretty active weather that will be headed our way for your Wednesday. Let's talk about it. Of course, a First Alert weather day is in place here. We're talking about some gusty winds over much of the area, and it's something we are going to have to really keep a very, very close eye on. This is kind of what we're expecting here for Wednesday. On top of this, we're going to talk about a severe weather threat in the south, and we're also talking about plummeting temperatures headed our way for Thursday, and very warm temperatures headed our way for next week. Kind of all over the place, right, with what we're expecting. So again, the storm headed our way tomorrow is why we have that First Alert weather days. We're seeing gusty winds to 40 miles an hour, and yes, maybe even a few strong to severe storms for your Tuesday. This is a risk for everybody. The severe storm risk mainly over eastern portions of the WSAZ viewing area, but overall the risk is going to be for almost everyone for all the impacts that we will see. Tipped trash cans, power flickers, some hail impacts could be felt as well. And so we'll get you right into it. Of course, this area of low pressure will be moving its way closer and closer to the area. I want you to notice, again, what we're seeing here. These white lines, they're very close together. And that indicates, of course, the development of a tight pressure gradient in here. And with those tight pressure gradient really actions happening, we get these windy conditions expected over much of the region pushing on in. We're talking gusts up to 40 miles an hour. That certainly could be a threat for your day tomorrow with the area of low pressure. Now, on top of this, with the cold front coming through, we're not only going to see gusts up to 40 miles an hour, we're also going to see some strong storms that could produce wind gusts of up to 60 miles an hour in some spots. Again, that best threat will be coming over far eastern portions of the WSAZ viewing area, though. And we'll show you why. Of course, the Storm Prediction Center has us in a level 2 of 5 slight risk of severe storms. Let's kind of move this map out of the way here, and I'll get myself out of the way so you can see what exactly we're looking at. Level 2 of 5 slight risk in the yellow. That's basically the I-77 corridor right here, points east under that risk. So we're talking Summersville, we're talking Charleston, we're talking Sutton, the Grantsville area here, the Spencer area right there, the Fayetteville area down here. The main threats are going to be the strong winds, of course, up to 50 miles an hour within here. But we could also be talking about some isolated areas of some large hail. That's certainly a potential. And yes, the risk is there for one or two storms that could produce a spin-up tornado here or there. It's not a zero chance that we will see a tornado, but the chance is very low. So we're not overly concerned about tornadoes. Of course, this is not going to be a March 2nd, 2012 situation or an April 2nd, 2024 situation. Nothing like that. But a spin-up tornado cannot be ruled out for the day tomorrow. So we're certainly going to have to keep that in mind for your Wednesday as the weather continues to evolve. Let's take a look at this map. This looks at thunderstorm energy, kind of the energy available for thunderstorms based on the rate at which air cools with height. Of course, the faster the air is cooling, the more energy will be available. Of course, the more moisture there is in the lower levels of the atmosphere, the better chances you're going to have at this energy coming on through. We got a little max of energy kind of overhead right in here in this purple zone coming, say, tomorrow late morning, early afternoon. In that zone, right in there, is where we could be expecting some of those strongest wind gusts. Again, 50 to 60 miles an hour because we have such strong winds high up in the sky. I'll show you what I mean by this. Let's move this forward. Again, we have another bullseye down here in North Carolina where we could be seeing some really strong storms down there with significant wind gusts expected there before everything kind of clears out. But let's talk about, again, the strong winds high up in the sky. I like to show this map all the time on First Alert Plus. It gives you a really good idea of what to watch here for terms of how active the weather is going to be. I want you to notice this white bullseye that you're seeing right here into western portions of Virginia here, in far southern and eastern Kentucky, and far southern West Virginia. This bullseye right in there. That little white bullseye. That's winds of sustained miles an hour of up to, let's say, 80 or 90 miles an hour. Of course, we're not going to see that at the surface. This is high up in the sky where the ground isn't going to really impact that wind. But when you get a thunderstorm to come through, it can help pull those winds down to the ground. So when we get these thunderstorms tomorrow, still won't be 100-mile-an-hour winds. We're certainly not going to see that, but gusts up to 60, certainly a possibility because of that strong wind in that bullseye that we're seeing when you combine that with that thunderstorm energy that I just showed you earlier. So it's definitely going to be a threat overhead. And of course, on top of that, we will be talking about some very potential of some isolated large hail and a very low potential of a tornado. I still mentioned that is a non-zero threat. Luckily, again, it's a very low threat. The chance of anyone seeing a tornado tomorrow is going to be around 2%. So we're not talking about a huge opportunity for tornadoes, but I still can't rule out one or two storms, maybe the key word there, spinning up something right there. The most likely thing to happen, though, are those gusty winds up to 60 miles an hour, especially in the yellow zone east of I-77 from basically Ripley through Charleston all the way down toward Beckley, points east, where that threat is going to be. Meanwhile, no flooding potential tomorrow, but the air will be so cold high up in the sky that there will be an isolated hail threat. So let's talk about the timing of this now. We'll pause it at 7 a.m. tomorrow. I want you to notice a good line of storms being depicted on this particular model right in here. And that's showing the potential of those gusty winds that I mentioned earlier. And again, in any one of those storms, that's where you could see that 60-mile-an-hour wind gust over the region. It's something we will definitely have to keep a very close eye on at the 7 a.m. hour. Notice we're dry, though, further to the west. As we go later and later into the morning, drier conditions will be set to work on in. And that's thanks to the storm kind of pushing in some drier air from the Rocky Mountains. So we do get a bit of a break, at least from the storms. The winds are going to be still howling. We're still seeing widespread wind gusts to 40 miles an hour likely over much of the WSAZ viewing area. But at least by mid to late morning tomorrow, we get a bit of a break. Let's move this forward, though. Pausing at around 3 p.m. So this is when kids are getting out of school. This is when you're picking up the kids from school. You're maybe getting out of work early, getting into your afternoon. Right in here, this secondary line of storms right in here. Doesn't look all that impressive on the future radar, right? That's because, again, we don't have a whole lot of ample thunderstorm energy available to this. But these are those storms that are really going to pull down those really strong winds that I mentioned earlier. And again, those gusts up to 60 miles an hour still will be a possibility. Meanwhile, I want you to notice this activity out toward the Elkins area, right in here. If you get any storm that's isolated like that, that's where your spin-up could be. So again, that better spin-up threat is going to be, ironically, out into the higher terrain, out into eastern portions of our viewing area. But again, that threat is still there, so we're going to have to keep it in mind. But the main threat, again, the damaging winds and maybe a few crushed ice pellets of hail that will be small falling from the sky. Eventually, the cold front gets all the way through, and yes, we see that green change to white. We're looking at snow beginning to move its way into the WSAZ viewing area by the time you're getting up on Thursday morning. Good news is we're not expecting any accumulation. The roads will be fine Thursday morning. No first alert weather day for Thursday, but it's not going to be a pretty sight. I'm sure not a lot of us want to see snow, especially after the amazingly great day of weather we had today. Yeah, not so much. It's not going to be great on Thursday. Still going to be blustery with those wind gusts up to, let's say, 20 miles an hour and temperatures that will be into the 40s by Thursday afternoon. So winter is going to be returning, safe to say. And again, we got to talk about the wind gusts. Again, with how strong this area of low pressure is, that's being generated by very cold air aloft, just kind of coming on down into the area. We're still talking strong wind gusts. Look at that 50-mile-an-hour wind gust showing up on this particular model here over toward the Richwood area. Again, that's what these storms could do. Maybe up to 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts in some of these storms as we're headed throughout the day. But widespread 30 to 40 gusts from not the storms, but just from the system itself pushing through. So really got to be prepared for that. Take the trash cans inside as soon as you can to prevent them from blowing away. You want to tie up any of these loose objects. Anywhere you see this purple is where you're going to see the big impacts. That's over a good chunk of the WSAZ viewing area here. So again, that's where you're going to want to take the trash cans inside. That's where you're going to want to maybe prepare for power flickers or even a power outage for that matter. That could definitely be a possibility for your day tomorrow. Charge up those phones tonight. Make sure they're running well First Alert weather app. We'll keep you updated throughout the day as well tomorrow. That's going to be a great resource for you. Of course, we're on air on WSAZ as well, the WSAZ app. You can stream us all the time as well once you charge that phone up. Also, of course, tie up the porch furniture. That's going to be a big issue. Wind advisories are in place for a good chunk of the WSAZ viewing area. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow everyone's under a wind advisory for those gusty wind conditions that will be kind of presenting themselves to the area. And again, notice how we're not done by Wednesday night. It's still gusty. Now, we get below the really advisory criteria. We don't see a whole lot of overly impactful stuff coming in for Thursday, but it's still going to be gusty. So a wind-blown day for the day Thursday. Let's talk about what's going on with this storm now. It's out in the Great Plains. Look at this pinwheel you're showing here on the Water Vapor Satellite. It's really astonishing when you look at it. This is a classic textbook storm that you'll learn in an Intro to Meteorology class. A classic storm that is creating some problems all over the continental United States. You got really strong winds basically right over the Great Plains where you've seen this storm really just continue to impact. Meanwhile, in the south, down here, we've had severe thunderstorms, we've had tornadoes. We had a tornado in Oklahoma earlier on today. Zoom on into some spots within the southeast, and you still see tornado watches in place for a good chunk of the southeast, for a good chunk of, let's say, Louisiana, over toward the New Orleans area where Mardi Gras is going on. They're still under a tornado watch right in here. Meanwhile, southern portions of Alabama, Mississippi, still under tornado watches, and a few severe thunderstorm warnings over the area. And all that rain's headed our way. Now, the good news is we did have tornado warnings earlier that are no longer there. So right along the I-59 corridor toward Hattiesburg, still severe thunderstorm warnings, but no tornado warnings. Look at that purple dollop, too. Likely some, at least a little bit of hail trying to form here in that storm. And these continue to move off to the east. I don't think we're going to get the brunt of the severe weather, but an isolated severe storm, again, can't be ruled out for your day tomorrow. And so we're watching that. They had quite a bit of severe weather over much of the south earlier on today. In fact, a couple tornadoes touched down in portions of Oklahoma. So quite a bit of activity. Let's even go to the Storm Prediction Center storm reports here. Thanks to the Storm Prediction Center for getting us out of, getting all this information out, I should say, right here. Let's zoom on into that. That red dot you see right here in Oklahoma, that is that tornado that we did see. And it looks like we got another report of a tornado last night. We have multiple reports of significant damage around Ada County, Ada, Oklahoma, I should say, in Pontotoc County, Oklahoma. And then we have a Union Valley tornado that developed east of State Highway 3 along County Road E1600. That moved to the northeast, and one home received roof damage. So a couple of tornadoes touched down in the Oklahoma area. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw more down here in the southeast. Our threat's very low tomorrow. I want to stress that. Not expecting a tornado outbreak overhead, which is good. We don't need another March 2nd, 2012 or April 2nd, 2024. And it doesn't look like we're going to see that. But the tornado threat is very low. We're going to have to keep a very close eye on all that's going on there. Of course, we are looking at continued storm reports in Oklahoma. And it is spring. That's what happens down in the Great Plains. You start to get this activity really beginning to push on through and cause some havoc. And again, the severe weather does continue over in southern portions of the United States. Mobile, Alabama areas, up into the Montgomery, Alabama areas is where we're really expecting the developments of some of that more active weather to work through the WSAZ viewing area. Not any overly impactful tornado threats, though. Again, that's the good news. Meanwhile, as we head into next week, I want you to notice something. Jet stream's moving off to the north and east. So highlighting some of the cooler air that's further to the north. That'll be well up here. South of that jet stream, we're talking about warmer air. And that warm air is going to begin to filter on into the area heading into the week next week. It's going to feel a lot better over much of the region come this time next week. You're going to love this weather that's headed our way. What do I mean by that? Well, let's show you kind of what we're going to be seeing. I want you to notice this green, how it just slowly advances its way eastward, pushing that warmer air closer. And this warmer air doesn't come with any rain. This warmer air also doesn't come with any strong storms or strong winds or anything like that. It's going to be a sunny day. It's going to be a beautiful day heading into the beginning of next week. Monday and Tuesday are the pick days to be off and about. What do I mean by that? Look at this. Forecast from the National Weather Service next week, 66 degrees. I think it's going to be warmer than that. And I would not be surprised if we do hit 70 degrees by this time next week once again with calm conditions, sunny skies. That'll be the pick time to be off and about and enjoying some of that weather. Beautiful, beautiful conditions all over the WSAZ viewing area for next week. Fantastic weather. One thing I do want to touch on, though, once again, with the weather threat that is coming our way for the day tomorrow. I mentioned how we have a non-zero tornado threat, a very low tornado threat, but not a non-zero threat. This is going to get a little technical for you, but I'll try to show you here. I'll center the computer so you can see. Let's go to this. This is what's called a sounding. Basically gives us a vertical picture of the atmosphere. There's a couple of things I want you to notice here. This line right here, again, in this area, that's where you get that thunderstorm energy. So there's a little bit of thunderstorm energy available, and this is a vertical plot of the winds. A little bit of curvature right in here would indicate why that tornado threat is low, but still there tomorrow. So we're keeping a close eye on that, and it's something we have to watch. Of course, I mentioned that thunderstorm energy earlier, and this line. This line also indicates very strong winds from some of those storms. So again, the main threat with the storms tomorrow is going to be those strong winds, and again, potentially some hail with a very tiny, tiny, tiny tornado threat that we will have to watch. Of course, this is First Alert Plus. We air every Tuesday, 6:45 p.m. Get you the latest info on what you need to know with the weather, and we get you first alert for any information that you need to know as well. Going into next week, we stream on all the WSAZ digital platforms, including YouTube, including Facebook, including our app. If you're watching on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe. Remember to share on Facebook. And of course, keep watching every Tuesday, 6:45 p.m. We'll have you the latest, and you might learn something. We get very technical here on this show. We have the freedom to do that over that time period. Stay weather aware tomorrow. Like I mentioned earlier, that WSAZ First Alert weather app going to be your best friend tomorrow for any active weather alerts that could be happening. And again, we'll continue to get you the latest on what you need to know with any weather information that continues to happen. Meantime, make it a great Tuesday.